welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I'd do a quick little recommendations video, and the theme of this recommendations video is Fairytale retellings. These aren't all the ones I've ever read, but I wouldn't recommend all of the ones that I've ever read because not all of them are good. I still have some on my shelves, but some of them, again, they're not straight up retellings, but they're like fairytale inspired, because I would really recommend the Hazelwood duology, but it's not a retelling of like a specific fairy tale. It's just fairy tales. Like the fairy tales are made it's Melissa Albert. She wrote her own fairy tales for it and they're amazing, but I want to talk about straight up retellings in this one. So I have 8 books here. Some are pretty well known, some I think go kind of unnoticed, and some are surprising.
Okay.
Right, let's start.
Hey, let's go.
So the first book I'm going to recommend is probably the one that is the most popular, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. This is basically a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I think, yeah, it is. It's also the first book in a series, and the rest of the series just branches off from this concept, and it's no longer a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It just becomes its own thing, but it started off as a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's good. It's very fast-paced, very fun, and easy to read, and enjoyable. I love the covers. I love how it's always like this bold colour, and then like I love the bold yellow font across it. I think it's a good cover. It looked real nice on your shelves for the rest of the series. It's funny because I nearly got rid of this book for some reason. I think because I got halfway through the series and it started to bore me a bit, but the books are massive and my attention span, I go through moments where I'm really good at focusing things, and I go through moments where I just don't want to think about anything, and it was one of those moments. So I was like, well, I'm going to get rid of everything, but I've stopped myself now. But yeah, this book's good. Beauty and the Beast retelling. The Disney Twisted Tales. I would not recommend all of the Disney Twisted Tales because some of them are bad. Like, you cannot get through. But these 2 are my favourite, although I will say, so we have As Old as Time and Let It Go. They're always written by different authors. This was written by Liz Braswell, and then like As Old as Time was written by Liz Braswell, and then Let It Go was written by Jen Kalanita. Obviously a Frozen retelling, which in itself is an Ice Queen retelling, Snow Queen retelling, and then As Old as Time, Beauty and the Beast retelling, obviously. There are some Liz Braswell, the ones that she writes, I hate to say it, but she's probably the worst writer in like the authors who write the retellings for Disney Twisted Tales. Liz Braswell, she makes things cringe. I will say, I read this so quickly. It's highly enjoyable, but it's no masterpiece. And the way it's written, you have to get past the fact, what is the word? Oh, you know when you're in school, you're in creative writing, and teachers said is dead. Said is not dead. Said is perfectly fine. Especially when you choose to replace said and then use, how do I say it? Oh yeah, I actually don't know how to say it because I've read it so many times, but I've never heard the word out loud. It's like chagrined or chagrined.
I'm a massive fan of the dictionary.
Chagrined. It's like that. But she uses the word, like everyone chagrins, every other sentence is chagrined. I still highly enjoyed the book and I would read this again. Super fun, easy to read, but you just have to look past Liz Braswell's writing. It's not always bad, but sometimes dialogue. Once you get into the castle, it's great. And the whole concept of the twisted tales. So this one is, what if Belle's mother cursed the beast? And then for the Frozen retelling, this one's very good. So much shorter. That's another thing. This didn't need to be that long, we'll say. But again, I said a few bad things about it, but it's still highly entertaining and very, very fun. But this one's so much smaller. Joan Carlita, she writes very good. Like, I have no problems with the way she writes. And this one is, what if Anna and Elsa never knew each other? This one's super fun. I read this when I went skiing, so we were in Bulgaria, so it's all snowy, and it was perfect. But yeah, Twisted Tales. I've also heard the Sleeping Beauty one's good, but I've never read the Sleeping Beauty one. And then next we have, she'll go with another really popular one, Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Technically I probably shouldn't have included it because it's not a retelling. It's a Queen of Hearts origin story. So good. It was one of those times where like I've had it with a few books where I'm so invested that when it comes to the last few chapters I can't read it because I'm just like, I'm anticipating too much and I'm too afraid. One, I didn't want the book to end, and two, obviously it's the Queen of Hearts origin story. You know it's going to end badly, and it did. It's super good. Super good. She's like, it's all perfect, and the love story is just to die for. Honestly, it had me crying, like to the point where like some romances, and it only happens with historical romances and fantasy romances, but like they just get me so hard in the gut I like want to throw up. I'm just like holding my stomach and just like convulsing because I'm crying so hard, which like you really should read it. Basically, Christina Henry, she got a whole retelling thing going on. I've only read Lost Boy and the Mermaid. Obviously Lost Boy, Peter Pan. It's a Peter Pan retelling but also an origin story, and the Mermaid, just a Little Mermaid retelling. This one takes place in a circus mostly, and then this is in Neverland, but it is like it's more of a Captain Hook origin story. It's not a Peter Pan origin story. Peter Pan is like there from the beginning, but it's about his relationship with someone. This one thing with Christina Henry, it's very dark and twisted, and I think that's what makes me read them so quickly, because I read both these books in basically a day. Not both of them in the same day, I read them years apart. But yeah, it's, again, you have to be ready to be hit in the feels, especially with this one. These, like, her books have you screaming at the pages because it's so unfair. And that's another thing, I feel like she really gets the essence of fairy tales, because fairy tales are dark and twisted and full of tragedy, full of tragic stuff. Yeah, like she gets it. And then lastly we have Shannon Hale as an author. She has 2 retellings. This is kind of part of a series, this one, but the rest of the series I'm pretty certain aren't retellings. So this is The Goose Girl. This, the way I described this to people, it's like, it's the same vibes of like an early 2000s Disney fairy tale movie. Not even Disney, but I mean like early 2000s fairy tale-esque, or even just like it's not like Ella Enchanted or what, Tuck Everlasting, that kind of vibe. It's like those kind of vibes, but obviously like none of the stuff that happens in those movies happens in this book. This is a Goose Girl retelling, and it's a Grimm's fairy tale, literally called The Goose Girl. It has an elemental magic in it and talking to animals, and it's beautiful. Shannon Hale writes so amazingly. I read this so quickly, but then again, when I got to the last 300 pages, I like wasn't ready for it to end, because this is just like, this was like, it was so quiet is the way I can explain it. It was like, I'm saying that too much, like Shannon Hale's books, they're no big epic sweeping fantasies, dramatic stories. There was some drama in this, but I mean, like, everything's done so quietly and so like just softly and nicely. Even the magic system in this is just like, you know, whispering into the wind, and the whole thing is just so gentle and so lovely. You feel safe in this book. And then this is another book. This isn't part of her series. This is what's it called? The River. I don't know. But then this is her first book that I read of Shannon Hale, and don't be fooled by the cover. This is not a Rapunzel retelling. This is, oh my god, what is the name? This is a retelling of another Grimm's fairy tale, but she made it I can't remember. She gave it an Asian twist. Oh, sorry, this is the Book of 1,000 Days, and it's written in diary form of a lady's maid after her and the princess she served have been locked in a tower because the princess is refusing to marry this prince, and then a whole war happens while they're locked in a tower, and it's all written as a diary. And literally Dashti is the lady's maid's name, and you just like, you fall in love with her. This was beautiful, and again, there's the magic in this. I read it like 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure there was a bit of magic. But this is a beautiful cover as well. How could you not want that on your shelves? But yeah, Shannon Hale, super soft, beautiful fantasy fairy tale books. So nice. And that's all the recommendations in this video. Books. Well, I hope thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more book content, and happy reading.